Welcome to the Prospect League podcast, the podcast for the past, present, and future of the Prospect League, the home of elite college baseball players from across the country. I'm Lucas Burris, thrilled to be back for another episode. Let me start off by first and foremost saying thank you to all who watched and listened to our first episode with Prospect League Commissioner David Brower. If you are here and you haven't checked that one out yet, give it a watch, give it a listen. The commish had some really good things to say about his background, the future of the Prospect League, all that fun stuff. So check it out. It's the first episode here. It's on YouTube. It's on all those podcast platforms. However, this week is very, very exciting. I can't wait to dive into our first alumni interview. A warm welcome to all the LSU baseball fans joining us here today as I introduce this week's guest, former LSU, former CICL, and former MLB second baseman Warren Morris. Morris had a 9-year minor league and Major League Baseball career with MLB stops in Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and Detroit, jumping on the scene in 1999 with the Pirates batting .288 with 20 doubles, 15 home runs, and 73 RBIs to finish third in the Rookie of the Year voting. Prior to his time in professional baseball, Morris put his name in the record books at LSU from 1993 to 1996, where he batted .284 as a redshirt freshman in 94 before taking over the starting job at second base in 95 and earning second-team All-American honors as he led LSU in batting average, runs, hits, stolen bases, and on-base percentage. In 1996, he earned preseason All-American honors before an injury sidelined Morris for most of that season before he would eventually return to lead LSU through the postseason, capping it off with his famous walk-off home run to win LSU the 1996 College World Series over Miami. To this day, Morris's home run is still the only walk-off championship-winning home run in College World Series baseball history. Morris was a star also on the national stage, a member of the 1995 USA national team. He batted .361 with 5 home runs, 11 doubles, and 21 RBIs across that summer before he earned his way onto the 1996 USA Olympic team, where he and the rest of Team USA earned a bronze medal in the 1996 games in Atlanta. Morris's connection to the Prospect League comes just prior to those outstanding seasons of success, spending the 1994 summer with the Danville Dans in the CICL, a great guest with so much baseball knowledge, so much baseball history, and a soft spot for his time in the CICL and his summer with the Danville Dans. Let's get straight to it. Let's hear from our guest this week, Warren Morris. Warren Morris, welcome to the Prospect League podcast.
All right, good. Hey, Lucas, thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to visiting with you today about some of my days of yesterday.
Yeah, we'll mix and match, and before we got started, you were talking about how it's the CICL versus the Prospect League. We'll mix and match, but I like to let people know, and I just told them, your history, 1 year with the Danville Dans, very common, a very large franchise in this. So you've got the well-storied history. You've got a long history, and we're going to get to all of it. But I want to just start off with a little bit of what Warren Morris is up to these days.
Yeah, so I guess my probably main title these days is dad. My wife and Julie and I, we've got 3 daughters. The oldest 2 are twins. They are seniors this year, and at high school, so they'll be college here in August. And then I have a 13-year-old. Today is actually her birthday, so happy birthday to Stafford today. And
happy birthday, Stafford.
But yeah, just staying busy, following them around. I work at a local bank here in Alexandria, Louisiana. It's called Red River Bank. Been here 17 years. So I like to say after baseball, this was my first real job, and it's a great team I get to be with and get to help people in the community. So that's kind of what I'm doing nowadays.
Yeah, shout out Red River Bank. When you first contacted me, I saw that, and I was like, what do retired baseball players do once they're done playing? They go work for a bank. I don't know how common that is, but I've seen a few of those already. So you're in the list of former players working for a bank. But how are you just staying connected to the game of baseball? We're going to dive into all of that stuff. You talked about your daughters and stuff. Are you coaching any softball? Are you staying connected to the college or professional levels in any way past your playing days?
No, not so much coaching. I do a little one-on-one, things with some kids. My daughters, they're into lots of stuff, but none of them play softball or into the baseball side of it. So just a fan, I enjoy following college game probably more so than pro. I watch a lot of LSU baseball. Still follow the pro game as well, but just from playing it, it's kind of fun to make the transition. And now I feel like I'm a fan, and can sit back and instead of trying to figure out how to win the game, you just get to enjoy it and watch it, but still get the competitive juices. So I definitely always want my team to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And that draws you to my next question of, baseball we talked about. It's one of my favorite questions to ask some of the guests that come on is what initially drew you to the game of baseball? And what do you think keeps drawing you back? You were initially drawn as a player and then you moved into the professional level from the college level, but you're still drawn back as a fan. What about the game of baseball just keeps that love going and keeps drawing you back?
Yeah, baseball is a unique game in that it's a team game and you play as a team, but it has a lot of one-on-one aspect, that hitter versus pitcher. It's almost to me like a boxing match. Who's going to throw the first punch? Who's going to be able to, make the move to overcome their best blow? So I always love that one-on-one. It's not like football and basketball, which I love those sports and I watch those too. But those sports, you can set a pick, you can block, someone can get in the way. Here, it's just you versus the pitcher. Who's going to be better in that at bat? But then you get out on the field, the ball's put in play, and there's a team aspect. So it's a unique game, and I think that's why it appeals to a lot of people. It's not the fastest paced game, but there's also some just nostalgia and just some peace to that you can just sit back and have a conversation while you're watching the game. And then you see the action and then you get back to your conversation. So I've always loved it. I know there's a lot of new rules and things to speed the game up, which I understand why they're doing that, but I never had a problem with the pace of the game. I've just always enjoyed watching it, even as a young kid.
Let's dive into that because a lot of people talk about, what's going on with the new rules, and I'll pick your brain at that stuff. It's an interesting, thing you talked about, pace of play. What's your opinion on these new rules, the shift and the pace of play and the bigger bases? How are you feeling about the game of baseball right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think any leadership of any company, whether it's sports or not, they have to always keep their thumb on, what is the consumer? What are they needing? What are they asking for? And we're in a fast-paced world, so I can understand it's tough to keep, especially on TV, someone's attention for 3, 4, 4.5 hours. So I understand why they're speeding the game up. And, I think some of the rules as far as bigger bases are for safety reasons. I'm all for that. I don't know. I have a tough time with the shift. Just being a guy who prided himself on being able to hit where the pitch was. I just kind of felt like if you're going to play me in the shift, that's fine. I'll just hit the other way. So, not allowing teams to do the shift. I understand why they're doing it. And, some guys are going to try to hit home runs, but that's not a rule I would have put on. I would have been the one that would have said, well, if the shift's not working for you as a hitter, maybe you need to figure out how to change your swing. But anyway, that's been done. But as far as the speed up rules, I think it's taking some getting used to, but things seem to be being pretty well adjusted. So the pace of play, I'm okay with that as well, as long as it doesn't turn into some kind of like speed round where we just got to get the game over with in an hour.
Right. I don't think we're going there anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the extra inning rule that they have in the big leagues. I kind of like the way they play it out, but again, I understand all of that goes into the fact that they don't want a game that lasts for 5 hours.
Right. Did you ever have any experience with the shift? This might seem like an overarching question, really, but it's a newer thing to the game. I think a lot of people miss that kind of point of how quickly the shift became. Oh, people are shifting to everyone shifting. When you were playing either at the college level or in the later years of the MLB, did you participate in the shift at all? In that, were you ever shifted, or did you shift at fielding?
Seldom. I think a lot of, even, now a lot of people do it and it's kind of just a norm. But I do remember one year in pro ball and AAA, I played in Nashville, and our manager there was a big believer in the shift. And I can just remember playing second base and it really just feeling very awkward. The fact that my normal position when we did that shift with a righty was I was like right behind the pitcher, and almost that center field spot. And, but sometimes it worked, and then sometimes I was thinking, well, if I would have played my normal position, that ball's hit right to me. But with the way they look at statistics and try to figure out what's more likely to happen, I understand the numbers tell you On certain batters, you're better off to be in the shift. But yeah, it wasn't as prevalent. Now it's a lot more prevalent. Honestly, in my entire career, I can mainly remember just that one coach, and he was big on doing it a lot, so he did it more. The other times when I was in the big leagues, you may move a little, but you didn't have a full shift like you did now.
Yeah, I think that's crazy because it just, like I said, became so only a select people amount of people were doing it to everyone was doing it. And then MLB had to be like, whoa, we got to fix this. And it's good to see your perspective of that from like the hitter. You're like, well, just hit it the other way. Like what from a hitter who could slap the ball around, you're like, but then you go from the fielder side and you're like, well, I don't really like moving around. I'd rather just play. So you have both sides of like, I don't care about the shift too. I don't want to participate in it. So it's interesting to pick that from someone who was kind of right before the big renaissance of the shift. But let's dive back into kind of that college stuff. We love the college game and that stuff. But what I was, looking at your history, you almost played basketball. That was your big thing. And you're talking about the sports that you love. What went into deciding that you were going to play baseball at LSU?
Well, I mean, it wasn't that tough a decision, mainly because so you're right. But mainly the decision time was more like when I was a younger kid, like third,
Right,
fourth, fifth
right.
grade, because my dad was a high school basketball coach. And, I started playing basketball and like church league and different things. Probably I was like 5 or 6 years old. And for whatever reason, I just never was interested in baseball until I had a friend of mine's dad asked me to come play on a little league team, like when I was 9 or 10 years old. So like I never played t-ball. I kind of didn't get into it till later.
And, you're talking about you making your way to LSU and, 2 years at LSU, you're behind a perennial All-American who's very good at second base. And right before your big, breakout time, you had that redshirt season, you played a little bit, and then you go to Danville in 1994. How did you end up with the Danville Dans in 94?
Well, so there was several players that at LSU who before me had gone to Danville, and I just simply asked them, and they said they had a great experience, and the opportunity was brought to me, and it's kind of like it's good to be wanted, and so the Dans were asking me to come play, and Todd Walker, who was a first rounder, played second base. So that first year, really for the first time in my life, I played in the outfield, and I knew I was going to get the opportunity because he was going to the pro ball to get to play second base. So just the chance to go and play all summer at second base, and then also to be able to play with wooden bats and to get to work on hitting fastballs, curveballs, and just try to maybe hone in and improve a little bit. I had a pretty good year that first year, but not great. I felt like I could do better. So I really came in with the mindset to go to Danville to, number one, get to play every day, hopefully on defense at second base. And then number two, to work on some things and try to improve on some things at the plate. So, and then I guess number three would be, everyone had told me it was a great place to go. So, it wasn't a tough decision, honestly. I was glad I went. And, looking back, it was a great experience for me. We had a winning team. We won the league the year I was there. A lot of guys that I played with, got to meet some other great guys from around the country that played with us. My host parents were super. It's just fun summer. And I felt like I grew a lot. I was 2 hours away from my home playing at LSU. And now I'm, way off, on the other side of the country, but just, kind of confidence to feel like, hey, I can do this on my own. And so leading into that next year after Danville, like I was ready to go. I felt fully confident, and I have to give the town and, the team there in Danville a lot of credit for just helping to build me up so I could continue to get better in my career.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing of, what we talk about and what we pride ourselves in what was formerly the Central Illinois Collegiate League, the CICL. The Dans were part of that. The Dans are still a part of what we do here at the Prospect League. But you named all that stuff, that we really pride ourselves on. Talking about developing players, talking about enjoying the community, talking about, having a good time where you were. And you were getting into a little bit, but, what was that time like for you in Danville on the field, playing as well? Are you still connected to your host families at all? How long, did you ever reach back out to them? Do you remember who you played with specifically? And, you said you had a good year there, but anything specific on what your time was like, just playing for that summer in Danville?
Yeah, my host family really made me feel like just another one of their family. They had 3 kids, and I felt like the oldest one in the family. had a great house that had like a basement, which in Louisiana, you don't have basements. In Louisiana, if you go too far under the ground, you're going to hit water. But, just a great place and great people. And, they took me in. Their name was the Garens. And I remember, just fond memories of there and playing in the stadium there. And, several years later, whenever I did get to the big leagues, they connected and we were able to, hang out. They came to a game at Wrigley Field. So just surreal to, be able to see those people every day and, swim in their pool and, eat meals with them. And then not too long after that, after a game at Wrigley Field, they're coming to see me. So just special. And, I think it was special for them that we still kept connected and that they were able to come and see me at the next level. And that's the thing, I'm sure there's plenty of host families there that they have the same story. You just never know what the future is going to be for one of these college guys that, I mean, the next Mike Trout could come through Danville or anywhere there. And, that's all part of the learning process, that what you got to do to get to become whoever, whatever player you are. And, there's plenty of other guys. I know the guys that on that team that played with me, they're now attorneys or doctors. And, all of that kind of builds into who they are as well. So I can't say enough. My time in Danville, I had a great summer and really learned a lot.
Yeah, and I think you're itching around it, and I want to ask you just directly, like, sum it up for us. Potential players, potential fans, potential host families. Why do you think this summer collegiate experience and playing in a league like the Prospect League and the CICL is so important to players like you?
Well, I think it is. The Prospect League and what you guys do, it's vital to really get you beyond just the setting of what you're used to. And you get a lot of instruction there at your college, but you may not get to play every day like this. And you get to travel and you get to see how other players from around the country, you kind of hear their stories and see what they do, and maybe you pick up on a few little pointers there. And it's the closest thing really to a minor league season that you have until you hit the minor leagues, because you play every day. Even in college, it's more than you play in high school, but you may have 2 or 3 days where you don't play and you go to practice. Well, like in the minor leagues and the big leagues, there's not really time for practice after spring training because you play every day. And then, you're not just thrown out to the wolves. So you have a host family that's there to kind of help you get along, and you got a nice place to stay. And, they provided a job for me, which, I remember working in a car dealership. I was kind of like the detail guy. So I'd wash and wax cars and vacuum cars, which, after you do several hundred cars with that, I remember thinking, I don't ever want to vacuum another car in my life.
Yeah.
But, it teaches you those kind of like life lessons of, hey, you can't just show up and be the next superstar. You got to put in the work. And then, it wasn't just all about baseball. There was the other things, which that's really life as well. I mean, even the guys in the major leagues, they don't get to do baseball 24 hours a day. They do it at the ballpark, but remember, they have a family, they're a dad, they're a husband. So, all of those life lessons were things that you kind of get put there right there in the summer league. And you don't get a grade and you don't go to a class, but you get an education a little bit on life and what it's like to live on your own. So, I'd say anyone that's thinking about doing it, just step out and enjoy it and know that you're going to be able to be a better player and a better person because of it.
I love that answer. That was just everything you could hope for in an experience like someone like you, who even has the the record to show. You were able to do with a lot of the guys coming in. They want to have that. I made it to the majors. I had a great college career, but just the other stuff that that we preach, and that's really important. So let's dive back into that baseball kind of stuff. Danville, they set you up, and that was a fantastic thing that they did, because your 1995 season with LSU was just fantastic. Can you talk about leading up to that season, what Danville was able to do for you and what you were able to put together in your campaign in 1995?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just the ability to be able to play every day at kind of second base, where I was going to get to play at LSU, and then that led right into the fall, did well. And then, I never felt like I had to step in someone's shoes, but when you're following up a guy who's maybe one of the greatest college baseball hitters of all time, Todd Walker. And now down here we watch him. He's an analyst on SEC Network, and but just to be able to kind of become your who the best you can be, and I kind of was able to use the things that helped us to be successful and win there. And in our Danville team, we ended up winning the championship. And I think all of that, just the confidence you get from being out and almost going to the ballpark expecting to win, and then being on a great program at LSU and having that same feeling where, hey, I don't have to be like Babe Ruth. I just need to go out here and do a good job because we've got all these other good players. And yeah, I did have a good year, and then that led to getting opportunity the next summer to also play in a summer league. But I got to play on Team USA and get to play against countries from all over the world, and that was lead to the Olympics the following year. So I mean, it really is a springboard. And honestly, again, I don't think anyone should ever feel like they've reached their peak, because you just never know what tomorrow is going to bring. If you would have asked me during that summer in Danville, if, hey, guess what, in a year or two you're going to be in the Olympics and then you're going to get drafted to play pro ball, I'd have probably said, wait a minute, you must be talking about somebody else, not me, right? But I mean, it happened. So you just never know how the game becomes a little easier for you, and then you get more confidence, and then pretty soon you look around and you're seeing the guys that are the best in the country in college, and you're thinking, well, I can compete with these guys. They're no different than me. So, it's just amazing to me looking back how things piece together, and you never know it when you're going through it. But when you look back, it's kind of a lot clearer. So yeah, that 94 season in the summer really prepared me for what was to come in 95 and then even 96.
Yeah, and we got to get to 96. I'd be lost if I didn't bring it up. I'd be getting yelled at if I didn't talk to you about what you're known for. You're the hero of that 96 College World Series. Take me through that game. I just went back and I watched that 96 game, and talk about just your whole experience in that game, from throwing a runner out at the plate to getting multiple hits in that game to finally coming up in that bat ninth and hitting that walk-off. Take me through just outside of what I would say what you normally say about it. Take me through, what you felt, and, looking back at that game, how you feel about it looking back.
Yeah. I mean, you almost have to go even further back, and, I'll just briefly tell you, but, to the start the season and to be looked at as a leader and a preseason All-American, and, teams ranked number one, and then 12 games in, I injured my wrist, and, really diagnosis, couldn't figure out what it was. So I ended up sitting out 2 months and really wasn't getting any better. And finally they diagnosed that I have a broken bone and I have the surgery. And then by that time it's, 29 days from surgery is when our regional started, and I'm nowhere near 100%, but they put me back in there batting ninth because I was able to at least, slap at the ball and hopefully provide some leadership out on the field. And the team gets on a roll. We get to Omaha, and then we get to that championship game. And by then, my hand's starting to feel a lot better. And so I know it's crazy and as Cinderella story as it sounds, the very first time that I felt like I was 100%, and I told Coach Bertman before the game and that national championship game, I said, I feel like I'm as close to 100% as I have all season today. And, back in fourth game, Miami takes the lead in the top of the ninth, and guess who comes up to the bat with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, down by 1, and my teammate Brad Wilson's on third. And I hadn't hit a home run all year. I wasn't trying to hit a home run. I just wanted to get a base hit, score him, tied up, and then the top of the order is coming up behind me. But that ball comes off my bat and makes its way into the stands. And what are we, 27 years later, and people are still asking me about it. It's amazing. But I guess, like you said, the most asked question I probably get is, what were you thinking about when you stepped into the batter's box? And, I can tell you, luckily, my teammate before me, who, had a great year, but he struck out right before me for out number 2, Tim Lanier, our catcher, as he passed back towards the dugout towards me and I was going to the plate, he said these 3 words. He said, "Pick me up." And that was kind of our saying all year, that, no one in baseball is ever always going to get the hit. Somebody's going to make an error at some point, but that's okay. You've got all your teammates. They're there to pick you up, and they can help win the game. So when he said that, it just kind of registered for me. Like, I'm not going to feel like poor me I'm not going to feel like this is, how did I get in this situation where I'm the last one before we lose this thing? And I really just, he said that, and I just really had a mindset of, you know what, I'm going to be aggressive. This isn't really about me. All I can do is my best. And so I stepped in that box. I remember thinking, you know what, if I strike out, I'm striking out swinging because I'm going to be aggressive. And maybe that's why that first pitch I took a swing at. And, you know, I was running as hard as I could to try to get to second because I thought it was going to be a double. And that ball just kept going. So I was as shocked as everybody else there when it went over the fence. But I mean, what a feeling. You get to home plate and all your teammates are there. And I mean, I can tell you, you end up on the bottom of that pile and you can't breathe down there. And, you know, it's just the elation of winning the championship. And for somebody who had to sit in the dugout and basically be a cheerleader rooting on everybody all year from that injury, to be that exclamation point for that season is what's most special to me. And you know, that's what I think sports are all about. It's not about the you know, the numbers, the statistics, but it's about how can you help your team achieve and win. And you know, for me to be the exclamation point on that season, that's my favorite part about all of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I love what you said with the pick me up. It's such a common thing in the game of baseball, from, you know, the lower levels to everything. It's such a common thing to say. And for that one, those three words to just resonate with you enough to, you know, be aggressive and to make that exclamation point is just such a, you're the only one to do it. I think that's why we continue to go back to it. If a bunch of other people did it, we wouldn't be having this conversation as we were, but you're still the only man to hit that walk-off home run. So I think it shows how improbable it is and just how special that moment was. But you talked about the springboard, you know, from the springboard from Danville to the really good 95 season to the exclamation point 96 to MLB. You know, you talked about that. Take me through that journey for you of, you got drafted. What was that like? To you're playing in the minors to you're on an MLB roster and you're starting at second base. Take me through that.
Yeah, I mean, really, for me too. I mean, I'll add another variable. What helped me a lot was soon after that 96, we win the championship, and you know, the Olympics are in Atlanta that year, and I end up making the U.S. Olympic team, and we're playing right there in our home country, and you know, in Rosenblatt Stadium and the College World Series, there's like 28,000 people. It's huge, something for a college kid. And but now all of a sudden I'm in Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta. There's 50,000 people chanting USA. And I mean, just get goosebumps thinking about it. You've got it on your chest, on your jersey. And, you know, we end up winning. It kind of looks gold. I always tell somebody that I may tell my grandkids a small lie and tell them it's a gold medal, but we won the bronze medal.
We like to spin that a little bit because you're an Olympic medalist, and then people don't ask what medal. They just go, "Oh, you're an Olympic medalist."
No, the gold medals are really shiny and bright, but the bronze medals are pretty shiny, so it may work. But yeah, you know, and then from there, getting drafted in the 5th round by the Rangers, and you know, getting to go play pro ball, and you know, just every day, it's almost like I'm kind of back to the Danville theme, but except, you know, to another level, to where, you know, everything revolves around baseball, and just get to kind of learn what does it take to try to succeed at this level. And but all of that stuff played in, and you know, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you know, I've won championships, I've been able to play on, you know, Olympic teams. I know the major league seems like a far, far away mountain to get on top of, but somebody's got to get there. Why not me? And yeah, after 2 years of playing in the minor leagues, I get traded to the Pittsburgh Pirates and really get a great opportunity as a young guy to get to play every day at second base there, and wind up finishing my first year as 3rd in the Rookie of the Year voting, and you know, play for the Detroit Tigers, Minnesota Twins, and end up playing 9 years total in pro ball. I mean, it's crazy still. Like, I can remember as a kid collecting baseball cards. The fact that I'm on a baseball card is still just kind of bizarre to me. But you know, it can be anyone. And I always share this too when I talk to kids groups. My favorite part on that baseball card of me is when you look on the back and it shows your birthday, weight, height, all that, but it says hometown. And I used to think to get to that highest level, you had to be like somebody from Los Angeles or New York or some big place. I never dreamed that you could just be from, you know, small hometown somewhere and get to the highest level. So I always make sure that they see that it says Alexandria, Louisiana, where I was born, where those kids live now. And I say, you know, if I can do that, there's no reason why anybody can't achieve their dreams if you work hard enough and you believe in it. So, but yeah, it was, if you would have asked me as probably a high school, kid to write an essay on what would you want your sports career to be the greatest, what's the best scenario? Some ways I think it happened even better than I thought it could happen. So just really blessed to be able to live that out and, look back on that career and be proud of it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As you were going, you can just see how proud you are in that career. Whether you're third in rookie of the year or whether you're playing in the minor leagues, you can just it eludes how proud you are over your time in the league. So I think that's really special. I just got a few more questions for you. We're gonna slow it down a little bit. We'll wrap it up. I want to get kind of your opinions on the general MLB and college ballpark stuff. We talked about your connection to the game a little bit, but you've talked about Rosenblatt Stadium. You've talked about your time at LSU, your time in Danville, your time going to the Olympics. Looking at ballparks, that's a real big thing that we talk about. We pride ourselves in the type of ballparks we have in the Prospect League. What is your favorite ballpark? Your favorite place to play, your favorite place to take in a game? What's your field of dreams?
Well, I mean, for me, like growing up here where I did, and they didn't have like satellite TV like now where there's 300 channels. So here in Louisiana where I live, even though Houston's not that far away, the two networks at a young age that carried most of the games every day was either the Atlanta Braves or the Chicago Cubs. So I found myself a Cubs fan. I loved Ryan Sandberg and WGN, and I felt like I knew all the ads from Chicago because I watched so much. But yeah, watching Wrigley Field and that green ivy and just seeing those guys play every day, and that was before they had lights. And then the first time playing for the Pirates where I get to go play at Wrigley Field, I mean, it really took me a few minutes in batting practice just so I could like not be in awe that I was there. And it's just like you imagine in your mind what it's like, but then that ivy is even greener, and that grass seems even better than you thought it could be. And there's even some things I remember thinking, well, I always thought like it was a longer distance from the on deck circle to home plate, but it's really just a few steps. So just that the brick and Wrigley Field, that's kind of my field of dreams. But I mean, hey, getting to play in Colorado in Coors Field, and you hit a ball and it goes through that thin air. And I didn't hit too many balls where I didn't realize it was going to be a home run and it went over the fence, but that does happen there. So that's a fun place to play. But there's just that playing on big league level is really just a thrill for anybody. And it takes a little getting used to, because I can remember even having to convince myself like, hey, you need to just calm down. This is the same size field as you played in high school and college, just has upper decks. So don't focus on that and just to focus on the game and play your game.
It's so interesting to say about Coors Field is you said it the same way you talk about your LSU home run, of like the home runs in your career that you didn't know were leaving, whereas your LSU walk off and Coors Field, the two places. So, all right, I got a few more. Baseball mementos, that's a big thing. You talked about baseball cards, you talked about your medal. What is your favorite memento from your time throughout your baseball career? What is something that you go back to and kind of look at and it's a good memory for you?
Well, I mean, probably the number one thing, which is a little bit of a miracle that I even have, is the home run ball that I hit at LSU to win the College World Series. I have the ball. So ironically, a fan that lives in Omaha that just goes every year, he got the ball. And I don't know how, but somehow in the madness after the game with the interviews and all, he made his way onto the field and found me and basically said, you need to have this ball. So, I signed the ball in exchange to give him. But that ball that I hit, I have it. It's at my house. And that's just a thrill for me to have. And like awards wise, I guess my most prized possession would be just that bronze medal is just special to me. I've never served in the military. I always looked up to those people that gave their life for our country, and it's not even close, I know, but for me to be able to represent my country and put my game on the line to represent all the people out there, I just felt special that I was able to do that, and we were able to bring home a medal, and hopefully those that watch were proud of what we did. So those are my two most prized, I guess, possessions, if you would.
I have to ask before I get into the USA side of things. I completely agree with you on that, but is that a common fact of knowledge that people know that you have that baseball? Because I would never have guessed that you have that baseball. I was like, I don't know
not
how
really.
many people you've told have that baseball.
I think a lot of people are surprised because it's it's hard to believe how that guy was able to get through or whatever. And just after the game, people are heading out to get it to me. But I've had people ask me about the bat, and that's kind of a good story too. So that bat, I just used it that one day. So that's the only game I used it in. And the reason is our coach, Skip Berkman, he owned a hitting facility and his daughter ran it. And she came to Omaha the day before the championship game, and she was going to be selling. It's the same type of bats that we use, but it was like a different paint and, just kind of a newer deal. And so she was trying to get some of the players to use those bats because they were going to sell them. And she knew, people back in Baton Rouge would see those players using it, want to go to the store and buy it. So, well, baseball players, as you know, are very superstitious. Everybody said, well, no, I'm not going to switch. I'm going to use my bat I've been using the whole time. I said, well, I'm batting ninth. It doesn't make that much difference. It's the same weight. I'll use it. So I'm the only one that used that bat. And it's just ironic that that's the one that hit the home run. And LSU has a real nice Hall of Fame room with a bunch of memorabilia. And that bat, it sits in there.
Yeah.
So I always go look at it. And it's just funny. Like, I mean, you can tell when you look at the actual bat, it doesn't have all the cleat marks and dinks because I used it one day.
Yeah, it's interesting how many times that baseball might have been used either. Like that baseball could have been the one hit that baseball had and that one hit that bat had, like, or, that day that bat had. So just the crazy things of the world of baseball. I can't tell you how exciting this conversation has been. I think it's been fantastic. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. I know I have. I'll leave you any final thoughts you have for the Prospect League players listening, the fans, or just the general baseball community that you have to share.
No, I mean, I would just say, I definitely think, the league and, specifically where I played, that's what I knew, Danville, they're doing a great job. And, obviously it wouldn't continue like it is and continue to grow if you weren't. So kudos to you and thanks for what you do, investing in those young guys' lives. And, you never know where that's going to lead. And, for those host families out there, you do make a difference. And I appreciate what you do to sacrifice and bring a stranger into your home. But for a kid from central Louisiana to be able to look back and just have fond memories of my time. And, what is it? Maybe 2 or 3 months you're there. But it's funny. I just connected, I've kept in touch. But one of my teammates, he played at Liberty University. So I never would have met him except we were teammates on the Dans. Now he's been a scout for the Anaheim Angels for 17 years, and he was coming in to scout the LSU versus Tennessee game, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come down and watch the game and hang out?" So I got to hang out with him. We had a great time, but none of that would have happened if I hadn't gone to Danville, So there's so many different avenues that this summer league, just brings enrichment to people's lives. So, and hopefully I know the brand of baseball is great. So the fans that come out, they get to take advantage of that too. So anything that pushes the game of baseball forward, I'm all for. So thanks for all that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think you're always welcome at a Prospect League game. That's really what I'll leave you with. If you're ever in the area of one of our 17 teams, don't be afraid to stop by. I'm sure there's a free ticket waiting for you somewhere that you can enjoy, especially down there in Danville. I know she's got one down there for you. So thank you for your time, Warren Morris. This was great, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks again to Warren Morris for joining me on the Prospect League podcast. I really enjoyed that interview. I hope you did as well. Really exciting stuff there with Warren Morris. Really good conversation. Maybe he'll take up my offer and head to some Prospect League games this year, but just a really good guy, really exciting interview, and it's good to highlight some of that really exciting stuff he did in his career and his history with the Prospect League and the Danville Dance. So I really enjoyed that interview. I hope you did as well, and thanks again to Warren Morris. Before we wrap up this episode of the Prospect League podcast, let's get to what we always do, and let's get to 3 things you need to know about the Prospect League and what's going on right now. The Prospect League celebration of 60 years of baseball is continuing. If you haven't checked that out yet, all that stuff is on our website as well. But we are celebrating 60 years of baseball here in the Prospect League this year. In doing so, we're counting down the 60 days until opening day with 60 notable alumni here in the Prospect League. So check that out on all of our social media channels. It is still ongoing. And this week, you can see MLB Hall of Famer Kirby Puckett, who'll be featured across our social media channels this week, along with there's 7 every week of Prospect League notable alumni. In other news, Iowa right-handed pitcher Brody Beck and West Virginia infielder J.J. Weatherholt were recently named to the Golden Spikes Award midseason watch list by USA Baseball. Beck, a 2022 Clinton Lumber King, and Weatherholt, a 2019 Champion City King, are both having outstanding seasons, with Beck tossing 69 strikeouts with a 3.20 ERA and 45 innings pitched, and Weatherholt batting .451 with 16 doubles, 8 home runs, and a 1.264 OPS. So 2 really outstanding seasons there for 2 former Prospect League players. And in some general news, the Prospect League continues to make some exciting announcements. All of our teams are continuing to do so on their social media, on their website. So check out all the exciting stuff there. Notable though, lots of player announcements going out right now. So if you want a preview of what Prospect League teams are going to look like this year, what some of the players are coming in, check out those in the individual social media channels for a lot of the Prospect League teams. And some notable stuff, promotional schedules were released this week for a few teams, 3 in particular. The Burlington Bees, the Alton River Dragons, and the Springfield Lucky Horseshoes all released their 2023 promotional schedules. So check those out. Head to their individual websites. To get to those, you can just search them up, or you can head to prospectleague.com. We've got the link on the top to every Prospect League team's website. So check that out. Go look at it. See what's going on in the Prospect League with players and promotional schedules. Some really exciting stuff there. But that includes this week's episode of the Prospect League podcast. There's more exciting interviews coming our way. We've got more notable alumni lined up to join us. So make sure you continue to check out the Prospect League podcast. Drop a like, subscribe, comment, leave your support. Make sure you're helping support this channel and the Prospect League podcast wherever you're watching it, whether you're listening on a podcast platform right now or whether you're watching on YouTube. Please support the Prospect League podcast. And remember, drop a comment if you're interested in a certain topic you want me to cover. If there's a notable alumni or current player that you want me to interview, just let me know. Leave a comment. Get the conversation going wherever you want to. Remember to do so. Really helps support the podcast there. But that's all I have this week. A big shout out to Warren Morris. Make sure you stop by over the next 2 weeks to see what more exciting stuff are coming here to the Prospect League podcast. But until next time, I'm Lucas Burris signing off on the Prospect League podcast.